Hi guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Steve Hall, and over there is Pascal Floor. How's it going, Pascal?
Yeah, it's going okay, I guess.
You haven't been, you're not stuffed and full of turkey and mince pies and pigs in blankets. Do you have pigs in blankets in Germany?
No.
Oh my gosh, do you know what they are?
No.
They are sausages wrapped in bacon.
Oh no, I'm not a big fan of that.
Come on.
No, I'm not the biggest fan of bacon as well. So I did tell you that story of my adolescence years where I was living in Flensburg already, but in a it's called a colleague. So where students from a different city can actually stay at for the 5 days throughout the school days, and they are provided with a place to stay, also some food, right, and just activities and stuff like that. So I stayed there from Monday or Sunday evening to Friday evening, and then I went home. And during that time, always every second Wednesday, I think it was, there was English breakfast. And at 6:30 in the morning, with like the smell of bacon, sausages, beans and eggs, that was nothing for me, to be honest. So yeah, not the biggest fan of that.
Oh wow, no, I didn't know that, but that sounds like my halls in first year at university. We were catered for, and we had English breakfast every single day if we wanted it.
Oh my god,
I can remember going down this, pre-workout. I used to train in the morning, so I'd train, have a shake before I trained, and then come back and have like 5 boiled eggs and take out the egg yolks and eat like a bowl of oatmeal or something. I didn't have a clue what I was doing.
Such a bro. No, I mean, I do like breakfast eggs, but the bacon and the sausages, I don't know. That's nothing for me, to be honest. And do you remember nearly 1 year ago when we've been to Nottingham, the seminar with Alan Aragon and Martin?
Oh, you tried black pudding?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I didn't know what it is, right?
I still don't want it.
Black pudding sounds so great, and it looks actually quite decent, right? It was so disgusting.
I've still not had it. Baked beans? Fan?
Baked beans are
you
absolutely,
like baked beans?
Yeah, totally. Cool. But I'm not entirely certain about that for breakfast either.
No, I don't have that for. I think we're a bit weird in our breakfast. Although I do have oats and berries and like protein powder for breakfast, basically.
No, but Christmas dinner was really, really nice. So I cooked for the entire family. So for Katie and Hugh and me, a stuffed. What is it called again? Not a goose, but
turkey.
Turkey, exactly. Prepared it the entirety of the day, and I was quite surprised by myself. I think it's more luck or something in my genes. I don't know. It could be because the day after that, so the second Christmas day, which is for us the 26th, we went to Katie's parents' place, and I was supposed to prepare Knödel, Semmelknödel. This is a Bavarian dish, out of buns together with some milk, and you have to let that stand for like an hour, and then you need to make some kind of balls with
Sounds like dumplings almost.
Yeah, kind of like dumplings, and then you put it in boiled water and stuff. Sounds super simplistic, but there's actually an art to it, right? And I've never done them myself. I only knew the recipe from my mom, and I tried to replicate it. And at first I was like, oh shit, I'm doing everything wrong here, right? And I actually first cooked them at their place, so I was not entirely certain what the outcome will be like. And I surprised myself again. I don't know what it is, but maybe it is just in my genes.
I've never heard of that dish before, but it does sound
it
sounds nice.
It is really, really amazing. And everyone loved me for that.
So you celebrate Christmas on the 24th.
Exactly.
And then what's the 25th?
25th and 26th is most of the time where you're then visiting like other family members. Most of the time, like your grandparents or so, and you have a big family get together. So 24th is more so your family, like children, parents. That's it, right? And then the next day is something like, okay, grandparents maybe of the mom, or now in that case, Katie. And if it would have been like that, then 26 would have been something like we are going to my mom's place or so, but that was, of course, not happening.
Yeah, we just have Christmas Day and then Boxing Day. I don't know if we don't really do anything else. But I think Russia as well celebrate on the 24th. So a few European countries celebrate on the 24th.
Isn't it like, because I have a couple of Russian friends that they are celebrating on the 10th. Oh, no, that is, I think, New Year's Eve. Or is it Christmas? On the 10th of January or so?
Surely everyone celebrates New Year's Eve on the same day. Otherwise, that would be really weird.
It could be Christmas. No, I mean, someone like the Chinese and stuff like that.
No, I don't, what,
they do have a different New Year's Eve as well.
That's just strange. I just think it always must be the day before New Year's Day, which is always the same.
So if there are any Russians listening, please enlighten us. Is it the Christmas Day or is it the New Year's Eve that was celebrated, I think, on the 6th or the 10th of January? Not entirely sure.
I'm just super English, so I have no idea.
but I survived the Christmas days, and to be really honest, so I did some client check-ins here in the morning. To be really honest, I don't find these days challenging at all with sticking to the kind of macros. Sure, I wasn't really tracking the macros, but not overindulge. Just have 1 or 2 plates of quote-unquote good choices when it comes to the food. I had no problem at all. And that's not me being like, yeah, I'm super superior or I don't know what is wrong with other people. But I really no problem whatsoever with actually just eating to satiety levels and then leave it like that.
Yeah, I think it's strange. I said it on my story this morning on Instagram. I was just kind of like, it's like when they big up films to be this amazing thing and you go see it and it's like, oh, it's not that crazy. And I think we build up, not we, but maybe, the fitness industry as a whole, build up a bit of anxiety about Christmas and how, like, look how many calories are in this. And I think it's more so potentially, I don't know if you didn't drink, did you?
I drink lots of stuff. I was
smashed.
So drunk. No, I'm just kidding.
So I think it's potentially like the alcohol, the snacks that get people. But they're like Christmas dinner, you can fill up, like there's so many nice vegetables, like, and that sounds strange, but I love like all the veggies that come with it. Roast potatoes, like, come on, like they're not that calorific. Turkey breast.
Mate, I had the same way, right? I would have loved to actually eat more, especially what we've done here ourselves, and also the things that Katie's parents provided, which was amazing. But after 2 like decently filled plates, I was just like, holy shit, I'm super stuffed now. I even saved up some calories, so I went in there a little bit hungrier, but still I couldn't manage to eat more because I was so stuffed. And that was like lean meat choices, vegetables. The Zeneknödel is basically just buns, like softened in milk and then cooked. That's basically it, right? So nothing really too crazy there as well in regards to calories. And I couldn't have eaten more. And I'm someone who's hard to satiate, and that was just too much for me. But I can also see the problem in a cultural thing. So I have a client, Francesco. He's from Italy, and he visited his parents as well. Big family get together, lots of food as well. And I think when culture comes into play, this may be problematic there as well. When they're just like, when food is the center and not the kind of the get together of the family, but food is plays a major role in that. And then you're just having a good time, have some drinks, as you already mentioned as well. But the entirety of the day, you're sitting together and eating, and not just for like 2 or 3 hours, right? So I could see that this might be a problem then with overindulging.
Yeah, I think that, and then people who are either trying to diet through it, I can see that being harder, or just people on lower calorie intakes. So I always think this about, for females who are smaller, maybe they maintain on less than 2,000 calories. Like, that's then hard. Like, eating out is hard, let alone Christmas Day. Like, that can be quite hard. And then just people who, dieting or have been dieting and aren't recovered fully from the diet fatigue. But for most, I think it's all right.
No, totally. And that is exactly what I said to Katie's father, that I'm happy that I'm right now in a maintenance phase. So he doesn't really know what maintenance or cutting phase is, right? I just said like, okay, I'm not dieting now, right? And he knows what I'm talking about. And I basically said like, I'm really happy that I haven't been dieting for a while now, because otherwise I would probably like eat like a madman there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was so delicious.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, your gyms are all open over the Christmas period as well, aren't they? So you can train
but
to your heart's content if you want.
Yeah, I was still recovering from my bronchitis.
Yeah.
So I went in there on the 24th and the 25th, but yeah, I mean, not a big deal there. But it is cool to have a gym available 24/7, even on like stuff like that, holidays and stuff.
Yeah, I kind of find it. I think a lot of people look at it and they're like, oh no, you can't train on Christmas Day. It's like a day for family and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I don't know. If you have a gym close, you love training, it's what you enjoy to do, they probably aren't going to be upset that you are going and doing something you enjoy. And it's only an hour or so out of your day. It's not a huge deal.
Exactly. I mean, unless it's once again such a cultural thing where you are supposed to be around your entire family, you probably have 1 or 2 hours to spare for something that you want to do or something you enjoy, instead of sitting on the couch watching TV or so. Right? It would be the same as if you were to say, okay, I'm going out for a walk. No one would bother then. Right? So I think the people who are saying that it's a big deal for their family, either it really is a big deal for the family, and I would assume that it's then because of a cultural thing, or the family never gets together or so, or someone is just thinking that it's a problem for the family, but it really isn't, and you are the creator of the problem. Yeah,
I think it's quite often times we make things problems because we think it's a problem rather than actually being a problem.
Yeah,
and then if you just don't think it is, then actually it's okay. It's a weird mindset shift, but that's helped me when I've thought about things like that.
Yeah. And what about yourself, mate? How was the Christmas? Many children I've seen. You played. What's it called on English? I just know him from Waldo, right? Waldo. Yeah.
Didn't play that for very long. No. Because
in Germany he's called Holger.
Holger.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Wally here. And then there's Waldo's like the evil yellow one. I don't know.
Ah, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I have two. Well, both sisters have 2 children, so I have 3 nieces, 1 nephew. So they're just ridiculous how much energy they have, and they kind of tire you out. But yeah, it was. How many days was I at home? Like 4 days. I managed to train in 3 different gyms over those days, actually, which is a bit nuts. And I had my charger stolen, which was completely random.
No. Why does anyone do that?
I have no idea. It's so strange. I still can't imagine how they even got it, and they didn't take my bag or anything in my bag.
And you are sure that you didn't leave it somewhere?
Yeah, it's
crazy.
I was charging it in the gym, and then I had my bag in there all zipped up, and then I put my charger in last. So I don't know if maybe they could squeeze it out of the locker or something. And I was like, why would they take a charger? And then I realized when I bought one, they're actually worth a fair amount, like £30, which was actually...
Someone was really in a desperate need of a gift for someone, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure you could sell that on for much. Maybe
everything was closed, and like super desperately going to the gym and be like, oh shit, I need to wrap my head around an idea for Christmas presents. Oh shit, I charged that one. No, I think that one.
Oh dear. And sadly, Luton, and sorry if anyone lives in Luton, but you probably understand, it has a little bit of a reputation for that sort of thing. So yeah, oh well, it happened. There's worse things, but yeah, no, it was nice to see family. But I do love just being back in routine and everything, and I love being able to see my family and nieces and like my sisters and catching up. I'm really like lucky to have that, but there does become a time where you're like, I just need to get back into what I'm doing.
Yeah, especially when you love what you're doing.
Yeah,
so many people. It's funny because we talked about it via Instagram already, WhatsApp, are always living for the weekend or living for the holidays. And for me, I really, to be honest, I really was just already after the Christmas dinner, he'd be like, okay, let's go back to the normal day. And I was a little bit annoyed that all the stores were closed and I couldn't I couldn't go to the doctors, for example, right? And yes, it is not their fault. It is absolutely, here again, we have the dichotomy again that I'm creating the problem here, right? Instead of it being the fault of other people. But I just like my rhythm, and also I don't understand the big fuss about Christmas. But this may be because I'm an atheist as well, and I've never really celebrated because of religion, or I also didn't really have the family that celebrated Christmas to that extent. So I'm a little bit biased on that front. But yeah.
I can see it when for me, it's just a good opportunity to get the family together. That's about it for me. But then, it's still, I want to do things that I enjoy. And then when the gyms and things are shut, it's just like, this is annoying and awkward. But
I could imagine that it will change my perspective on it once children are growing up and stuff like that. Then you are doing it for the children instead of doing it only for yourself or such. Right, but I was just like, okay, let's go back to the normal routine. Oh, shit, it's first the 25th? Okay, have to wait 2 more days. Well, I was just like, I would really like to just get back to things. Just do whatever it is you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, kids change everything. Christmas Day with kids is just, we were laying out, I don't know if you do this in Germany as well, laying out carrot sticks and like mince pie for Santa and the reindeers.
Oh, that's cute, mate.
And then you chop off the ends and like sprinkle them outside as if the reindeers have eaten them and we fed them. And the kids, they still believe in Santa, so.
Yeah, no, didn't do that, but so Hugo got 3 presents and he only got to 2 of them because then he was so stunned with the second present that he didn't even open this third one. So you can see that giving presents to kids, it's really not about the you said it right, that it was Charlotte who mentioned to you that giving presents to kids is not really about kids itself, but more so for the parents to see the joy of the kids. And in that case, we didn't really make a big fuss about it. Sure, we have written a letter to Santa because Hugo needed a electric toothbrush, and that's of course what he got, right? And so it was lovely to see, though, especially because it was my first holiday season together with them, and it was just lovely to see.
And then just an update on, obviously we kind of covered training and nutrition a little bit, but in terms of your plans, because you were starting your diet, I think you were planning to start in the new year pretty soon, but I think that's changed a little bit.
But I will start to diet first. I don't know if you're referring to...
I'm referring to, because I think you had some doctor's things you needed to be at maintenance for first.
Could be. So I got my test results back for my blood work I had been doing, I think 1.5 weeks ago or so, in conjunction to the long-term ECG. My test levels came back, so the normal testosterone levels are in the mid-range, estrogen levels are normal, but my free testosterone levels are still below the physiological range, which indicates to me that, knowing from what I had in the past with high DHT levels and high SHBG levels, that they're still either high SHBG, that is kind of holding on to the free testosterone, the receptors there, or that I'm still having a high DHT along the way as well. And this is definitely something I want to get checked out as well, because I don't want to be low testosterone, even though I was in a place where I should have been in normal physiological ranges, because I wasn't dieting. I haven't been dieting ever since like the midst of November. So a month has passed, or over a month has passed ever since I dieted, and I was not really that stressed in that situation. not sleep deprived. So I was in a much better position than in 2017 when I was diagnosed with low testosterone levels, and my levels were significantly worse. So there is a positive note in the entirety of the thing, though, and that is my levels have improved. So even though that I'm still low testosterone or hypogonadal, secondary hypogonadal, my levels have improved significantly. So normal testosterone is not on the low end anymore, but it is in the mid-range. Estrogen levels is not just plummeted in the bottom range, but more so in the mid-range as well. Free testosterone was really, really low in 2017. Now it is touching on the low yeah, kind of. So 7, what was it? 7 I had, and 8 was already the starting point for the normal physiological range. But it's still a little bit concerning because I'm still young, right? I'm right now not in a state where I'm dieting, and I want to be in a place where I'm in normal physiological ranges, right? Because the time will come where age will kick in, and I will definitely be out of these ranges. But I don't want it to be present already. So yeah, definitely something I want to get checked, and starting a diet then might not be the best thing to do, but at the same time I want to start the diet, so maybe I will just postpone it to a different point in time to get it rechecked and just to see whether it fixes itself and then go from there, or I will postpone the diet. And this will depend on when the endocrinology is getting back to me, because I reached out to them, but they are reopening on the 2nd of January. And first then they will probably be able to give me an appointment. And when it's in close distance, then I will take it and will postpone the diet. When it's first in, I don't know, in February or so, then I will start the diet.
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to know, but I think probably when I did, maybe even, I don't know actually. I don't know what my testosterone levels free test would have been because I was ignorant to it. 2014 prep, last year's prep, I don't know what they were. I wasn't getting them tested. But I think I reckon there's people who have been ignorant to it and got shredded despite it. It'll make things a lot harder.
No, absolutely. And I mean, you have to understand that the free testosterone is mostly what counts. So endocrinology is so complex. It's unbelievable. I was really trying to, so not just this time around, but already like over a month, try to more so understand the relationship between DHT, SHBG, all the, not really all the hormonal responses, but more so the sex hormonal responses and the things that are more so important for us. And already that is like super complex. Because, I mean, everything has a trigger and an action, right? Mm-hmm. So most of the time, everything is followed by a receptor or releasing hormone, and then the actual hormone gets released, right? So it's super complicated, and nothing is just black and white, where it's just like, okay, this is what is on paper, and that is the cause for it. There can be such a long chain of events before that can possibly be the trigger for that. It's super complicated. And when it comes to something like free testosterone, this is the bioavailable testosterone for your entire system, right? And when it is attached to something like SHBG or albumin or so, then it's not available because it sticks around like locked in place, not available for your system to be taken. And this is actually what you want to have ready, right? Because otherwise your normal testosterone can be in normal ranges, but when the free testosterone is occupied by certain receptors or certain proteins, it's not available for you.
Yeah. No, it's like if someone they could have high test, but if they have high of these other things, then they can end up having low free test.
So most of the time, though, when normal testosterone is higher, then the SHBG is lower as well.
Right.
But I mean, look at my blood values, and I'm not an endocrinologist, so I don't have anything to compare it with. And I would assume that many people have something like this, where maybe DHT levels are high, SHBG is high, because once again, the chain of events can be so complex and so long that even though that testosterone levels in the higher range normally mean that SHBG will be lower, it could potentially be that something else has an impact on that as well. Yeah. Because I know for a fact that higher estrogen has an impact on SHBG also. So it is a complex fucking field, but also super interesting, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, because it seems counterintuitive to think having higher estrogen levels would lead to higher testosterone levels. But I know Broderick advised me to actually gain a bit of fat so that I would increase my estrogen levels, which would then cause my body to increase its testosterone levels to compensate for that. And hopefully it did that. And I think it probably did. But so everything has a cause, effect, knock on. Super complicated, but it's interesting nonetheless, and it's good that we have that data and availability, I think, to the most part, as long as sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Totally, because I mean, especially in that field, it can be not really dangerous half knowledge, but kind of it is, because I have no idea really about that field. And then I'm reading something, and then I, of course, draw conclusions, and my brain is trying to connect things with each other, which is probably not even the case, or not even reality. And that is why I'm not trying to really interpret the things and be like, okay, this is the reason why, and that's why I need to take supplement X. This is not what I'm doing, because I can look at the data and try to educate myself, but I leave it for the experts to actually make the decisions.
No, good. So yeah, I guess there's a few complicated things going on, but you are going to just start the diet regardless and just see how things go. And it's a case of seeing how things go, rather than being like, it's kind of like what Jeff Alberts was doing in terms of let the physique come to you rather than chase. Well, he said chasing the physique, didn't he? Rather than chasing the show. So it can be a case of you kind of doing a similar,
absolutely,
play it by ear type deal. So I've just done my squat session today. I'm just entered week 4 of my mesocycle, and I think I probably got a 5th week in me again, as I did last mesocycle. Today's session was really challenging, but I felt a little bit off, if that makes sense. Just being out of usual diet, usual routine, I felt a bit off. So I managed to still perform as I wanted to. So I think I probably got a 5th week in me. It's going to be hard though. Crazy. But I'll probably have, because I had an extra rest day with Christmas Day, and then I'll probably have an extra rest day this week as well because of the way New Year's Day will land and it being the weekend. I'm not sure I'll be able to get to the gym on Sunday, which I would.
What are you going to do on New Year's Eve? Are you staying in London?
Staying in London for New Year's Eve. Going to some of Charlotte's friends for the evening. So it'll be a late one, and I will be training the next day. So it can have an impact again. Yeah, I'm a bit like, it's another one of those where it's like, it's just New Year's Eve. Do we have to stay up that late? I just want to go to bed. So... I will stay up though. It's impossible not to. It just depends. Like once it hits 12, I'll be like, can I now go to bed? But I think we're about an hour away from this friend as well. So I don't know if we're staying over there. I don't know. We will see. Yeah. But that's life, and you have to, what's it called? Give and take. So yeah, compromises. That's the word.
I'm just asking because of the 5th week and the consideration there. Whether this is actually, I don't know, when it is right in the middle of the 5th week or the beginning of the 5th week, I don't know. It could potentially be that the 5th week will feel so much more heavier because things like these can have an impact that will last for a little bit of time.
Either if I feel like it's gonna negatively affect things, I'd rather take the extra rest day, and then it will just smooth out things, let it last a bit longer. So yeah, anyway, I've got about a week or 2 left of this mesocycle, and then I'll have one more mass. But I think my body weight's stalling. I'm not completely sure. I haven't weighed in properly this week, and my fats have been higher, my carbs have been a bit lower because of Christmas and such. So I'll let that go, but I'm on 3,800 calories like each and every day. I might have to push closer to 4,000 to get my body weight back up to 195 plus. Which is a shit ton of food, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not really looking forward to eating that much.
No.
But everything's going well.
Then like, oh God, come on. And I mean, me myself, I always like to eat a little bit more. But when you are in a good position, in a well-fed position, at some point, I've realized it for the first time in the summertime, that at some point your body will just resist.
Yeah.
And I've never thought that that the day will come where my body will resist not getting in some more food, but the day is actually there then.
Yeah, I've only experienced it now twice, and it was ages ago in 2014 when I pushed to 190 and then I was eating 4,000 calories, and I remember one time I had like a whole tub of Ben & Jerry's. I can't even imagine eating that now. That's horrible. So yeah, it's getting there. So yeah, should we get to questions? We're half an hour in already. So
man,
we have quite a lot of questions as well. And thank you guys for all the questions. It's awesome to see. So the first question is from Simon Hill. Simon has asked, what would be the best way to program for strength and growth in the same week? And what average volume would be best in that same week of work? Thank you. I'm guessing growth is hypertrophy. It's the same word.
So, basically. So what I like to generally do is program the strength work at the beginning of the week and then the hypertrophy work at the end of the week. This has something to do with the accumulation of fatigue from either strength training or higher volume training. And I mean, there are even studies, I don't even know studies, but I know a study where they looked at recovery from strength training and recovery from higher volume hypertrophy training. And the people needed longer to recover from hypertrophy training, more so in the 48 to 72 ballpark area, hour area, and then from strength training in the range of 24, I think, to 36 or 48 hours. So that's the reason why I like to actually program something like this. So strength more so in the beginning of the week and then hypertrophy or training at the end. And also because I have the feeling that when it comes to hypertrophy, you can always kind of go in there and squeeze out a little bit more. When it comes though to the accumulation of fatigue, especially when it comes to systemic fatigue from heavy compound lifts, when you do them at the end of the week, maybe you are already pre-fatigued from the hypertrophy training from the former days. That goes in there, you are trying to do heavy compound lifts, puts you in a higher risk for injury, and also maybe you can't really properly overload them anymore. And maybe even the soreness or DOMS will stick around. So for me, so many things speak more so towards a strength to hypertrophy build or setup instead of the other way around. However, I also know that people like Mike Zerdos, for example, do something like a hypertrophy block followed by, or a hypertrophy day followed by a power day followed by a strength day. So this is feasible as well. And in the end, it boils down to what you can recover best from, because some people recover just fine from strength training. Some people recover just fine from hypertrophy training. And in the end, this is just a trial and error.
Yeah, I think whenever I've done it, he's trialed different DUP methods, and he's always like, I may have stumbled upon the worst one, but I can't remember what he said, the worst best or something. He named it because we haven't trialed that many. But I like that. It's like similar to a training program where you might do your heavier work first and then move through and do your lighter hypertrophy style volume work. That makes good sense.
I don't know, was it Winston Churchill who once said that democracy is the worst form of politics, but it is the best form we know up to date?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, similar.
Right? And this is basically the same what Mike Zerdos said there, that it is kind of the worst setup, but the best that we know to date. So, yeah.
And he said what average volume would be best in that same week of work, and that, for us, would be very difficult to answer just because of the fact it's so dependent on you as an individual. When we're thinking about even like things like MRV, volume landmarks, those are all incredibly individual. It's something for self-discovery. When we're thinking about averages and when we're looking at the data, it does seem to be that kind of 10 sets per muscle group seems to be a golden kind of standard for hypertrophy. I think you can probably do less than that and still see hypertrophy. For some individuals, they can do quite a bit less. Some will need quite a bit more. More trained you are, probably a little bit more. But starting around that 10 sets is probably not a bad way to go. And bear in mind that if you are training for strength and hypertrophy at the same time, in some ways they're a little bit conflicting, and you might not, like doing more volume might help your growth, but then it might take away from some of your strength, as Pascal alluded to. Like there's a lot of fatigue that comes along with that hypertrophy work, which is why for me personally, I tend to split these out into separate mesocycles rather than doing them both concurrently. You'll still get a bit stronger as you train for hypertrophy, but if you train specifically for strength, you might not always do enough volume to get bigger. So yeah, that's how I tend to do it.
No, absolutely. I think I wanted to add something to that, but I don't think that I do.
That's fine. I think I can hear Hugo.
Yeah, he's playing the guitar.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he has now. So he has three. So we have 5 guitars at home. So 2 are mine, 1 is Katie's, and he has now 2 himself, like 2 small. Is it called ukuleles as well? Yeah. And
amazing.
He is just so much into playing the guitar. It's unbelievable.
Right. So we've got a question from Andrew. Andrew has asked, what are both of your favorite exercises that get you a crazy mind-muscle connection? And are they your strong points? E.g. for me, back muscles. Is this Andrew, my client? It may well be. E.g. for me, back muscles exercises have always connected better, and my back is wide just because he's got a ridiculous back. If it's the same with your best connection, then that further enhances the fact that connection can be a key factor in growth. So yeah, I think we've actually talked about this a few times, haven't we, in terms of my chest and your back?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's always interesting to talk about it, because I think there's definitely something to that.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, the good body parts just grow from little work, because you're just having an insane connection to them, and you can do whatever you want and they would just grow, and you maybe even need to just throw everything out to have an emphasis on other body parts. And whereas so for me, the chest, I hardly ever feel the chest. There are a couple of exercises where I do. There's more sort of like cable flies, for example, but not really these heavy compound lifts. And I know that for a fact, my triceps are so much more stronger than my chest muscles are. And this is something I know from doing dips. I think I told you about it. It's still, I think in 2016, I once did a 1 repetition max with dips, simply because I wanted to know.
Oh, I never want to do that.
I had a belt with 75 kilograms between my legs, and I was weighing myself 88 kilograms, and I did a 1 rep max. This is something I would never be able to do, and it was really full way down without a full bounce or so, and this is something I would never be able to do with the bench press. But because of the biomechanics, I was, of course, engaging so much more in my tricep strength, right? And when it comes to the exercises that give me the best connection, it is weird. And I would have never thought that I would ever say this, but these are pulling exercises for my back, especially things like chest supported T-bar rows, and also the seated 1 arm row. It's unbelievable how much of a connection I'm getting with my back. And I came also to the point where lat pull downs are just engaging my back to such a high extent that I can't do much because my back is just fried. And I think that my back has probably done the best improvement over the past 2 years or so, ever since I'm really able to engage or focus on that muscle group. And it's not that I'm doing crazy amounts of volume for that part.
Yeah, I think I think he's completely right. I think there is a key factor there in that mind muscle connection, and if you've got a good connection, then it just grows really well. Just because I know when my back used to be an area that I struggled with, and I think it's really grown this off season, and now I get like crazy back pumps and the connection's really, really strong. And then for calves, I remember not being able to contract my right calf. Like I can sit here and contract it now, just sitting. Whereas before, I couldn't even do that. And that's how, and my calves, as we all know, are fucking tiny. So I definitely think there is really good evidence for that. And that kind of shows it anecdotally. So next question. Oh, it's also from Andrew.
Oh, Andrew.
Maybe we'll give
should we go to it? It was a short one. Yeah.
It was short. He said it was a short question, whether or not it's a short answer. Let's see. Have you ever seen better gains from dropping someone back to less training days, e.g. a 6-day split to a 3-day? So have I ever seen only from compliance issues and adherence in terms of I've had people I've given them 6 days a week and they consistently miss like maybe 1 or 2. And so we just scale it back so that they get all of their sessions in. I've never seen it from someone who can commit to 6, do 6. And I just have never had a reason or had any logical reason to try and drop back to fewer training days. I think that's really it for me. You might say something that gets me saying something else.
Longer answer on that is yes, most certainly. This is what I do with many of my clients who come to us, and I take a look at their program or what they have been doing in the past, and they did like tons of volume, like insane amounts or so, right? I
was only going to say that's me keeping this same volume. So when I'm saying it, I'm not I'm not talking about. I've definitely reduced people's volume.
I just want to bring it up really quickly because many people are doing like insane amount of volume, and they are doing like 6 days a week training weeks, which just I think that not many people are in a position where they need to. Sure, we can consider like personal preferences or like time restrictions throughout the week when you are simply not able to commit like to more than an hour. Sure, splitting it up to 6 days where every session is only like 30 minutes long might be feasible, right? But many people are coming from that place where they are doing like 6 days a week training, but they are still pretty weak as well, where it's just like not really justifiable to do that much training, because most of the time a high frequency, and I just generalize it now because I already mentioned the other examples why you might do a 6 day a week training, but other than that, splitting out the frequency to a higher frequency is only a means to keep or ensure that the quality of each session is high and that you're getting in enough volume on each and every single day, because at some point it will take a too long time and also the quality will suffer. And many people are not in that position where they need to spread it out like this. So have I seen better gains from pulling it back? Yes, because then we actually focused on quality rather than quantity. And once we did that, the gains came, or the progression came again. Also, you always have to consider when it comes to frequency, and this is something I think many people forget, is you're taking away recovery days. So now going back to the example Steve brought up with having the same volume. If someone is doing the same volume 6 days a week instead of, let's say, 5 days or even 4 days a week, you are having less rest days. And for some people with external stresses and everything, this could potentially mean that the 4 days, even if it's the same amount of volume, are better suited than the 6 days because you have more rest and more recovery from for certain body parts and also for your entire system.
Cool. No, yeah, I mean, I agree. Like I said, I think it's only if I was just, I've seen better results with people to reduce their volume. With frequency, I tend to, unless it's just an adherence issue, it tends to be okay. But yeah, cool. Good answer. Next question is from Mark Monchino. I'm sure it's Monchado. Monachino. It sounds right. But this is my client. So Mark has said, well, I'm assuming so. I feel like that's a different spelling of his last name. Anyway, great podcast, guys. Thanks for putting out such awesome content. My question is about carbs and fats while in a surplus. Assume that daily calories and protein are consistently hit on target. How much benefit is there from keeping carbs and fats very consistent day to day? For example, with a daily carb target of 500 grams, how big a deal would it be for daily carbs to look like 400, 350, 500, 600, 450, 500, 700? This averages to 500 across the week, and fat would also have to be variable day to day in order to keep daily calories the same. Would you expect noticeable detrimental effects to performance or progress in any way? Hope that makes sense. Thanks, Stephen Pascal.
Do you want to go ahead first?
This is an interesting question. And I think I'd first of all say that long-term averages win out all the time. When we're talking about these sort of things, it's always important to reflect on just how long things are going for, and that average will prevail. Just like kind of taking arbitrary refeeds potentially, or having just higher calories across the week. All things being equal, it's probably going to lead to much of the same sort of result and outcome. So this is essentially a carb cycling type of deal. And some days are as low as 350 up to 700. So that's a double carb intake to a half of the carb intake, which is quite a big jump. Generally, I'm not a massive... Okay, to actually answer the question of will this be noticeable in terms of detriment, I doubt it, because I think you're in a surplus. Well, Mark is in a surplus and 500 grams of carbohydrates. Probably that person's in a surplus. So I just doubt there's ever going to be any kind of big things that you're going to see from dropping carbohydrates like that, because you're going to be basically full all the time. Even if you are dropping down to 350, you're going to increase your calorie intake. Increase your fat intake, which will again spare some carbohydrates potentially on that day. And you're just not going to see depletion from that. So I don't think you're going to see any probably noticeable impacts on your performance or progress. But by cycling that much, there's a few things that I don't like about it. One is consistency and potential kind of data collection. So weigh-ins could be affected by that. In that, like the 700 carbohydrate day, you're probably going to see a heavier weigh-in the next day. The 350 one, you might see a lower one, and it could just make for messy data. And having that many different carbohydrate intakes across the week and targeting that, I think, is just psychologically challenging. I think it's fine to land within a range. So maybe you have like 100 carbohydrate gram range that you're trying to land within. I think that will allow for a lot of flexibility whilst keeping some a decent degree of consistency. But I just think it will just lead to psychologically just challenging, messing around, trying to target all these different kind of intakes, potentially messy data. I doubt it's going to impact training performance. And I just don't see the huge benefits to it if you are doing it for optimization of like, I'm going to have more carbohydrates on this day because I'm training more or harder or whatever it might be, because in the end, your rest days are refueling days. If you're training 4+ times per week, there's not going to be huge disparities in calorie requirements. So I think you're just doing it probably from a flexibility standpoint, which I think is a fine argument. I just wouldn't necessarily target that. I just have an idea to kind of average out at something. I don't know. I'm trying to answer. It's quite a big, long-winded question, but...
Mate, I wanted to bring up the last point, and now I'm running out of any kind of valuable input from my end. No, that is what I wanted to end with as well. When it's kind of from a flexibility perspective, then why are you tracking then the carbohydrates and fats anyway? Then have a calorie target, minimum protein intake. That's basically it, right? So, really well answered, mate.
Cool. Awesome. Let's get to the next one. I'll let you answer it all. Okay, this is quite a long one.
Oh, I think holy shit. Wesley, yeah. Our man. He's always the first to comment our videos.
Yes, and on my Instagram as well. And he asked me a long question. And I was like, submit it to the podcast. And he signed up and everything. So that's great.
Okay.
I will read this out to you. Wesley Blom. Hopefully I've said that right, Wesley. How would you pronounce that, Pascal?
Yeah, I think Blom. Okay. Where is he from? Do you know that?
I'm actually not sure. Wesley, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I haven't checked that. I mean, we are friends on Facebook, and I don't even know where you're from. What friends are we then?
Hey, bros. This was a question I asked Steve in a DM. So I was just wondering, I have been seeing some pretty good results with my current training setup, but I was wondering if I'm not missing out on some gains doing this. In my meso, I only go up in total weight lifted in an entire session. So e.g., last week I lifted 6,700 kilograms on pull days. So I guess, total volume. So this week I'm lifting 7,000 and next week 7,300. I only do sets of 10 or more reps in hypertrophy blocks. So some weeks I take more weight and other weeks I just perform more sets / reps. Is this okay? An okay way to progress throughout a mesocycle, or am I missing out on gains? And then we'll do the PS after.
Yeah.
Cool.
I find it really tough to actually say it because you are still making progress when we take a look at the overall tonnage, what you're doing. But as we know by now, tonnage might not be the best indicator for hypertrophy and tracking the progress over time. What I mean by that is you can easily ramp up your tonnage with sub-maximal loads, right? And doing like lots of repetitions, and you are easily accumulating a lot of tonnage. But then the question comes to mind, what is causing more stimulus or more growth? Yes, I think inter-individually tracking the volume and tonnage might be appropriate, but what I like to do by now is just tracking the hard sets by for each and every single body part. And when we are using some kind of intensity variations, such as, I don't know, my reps or drop sets or so, yes, you have to count them differently. But for that, you hopefully have like old data or so, or you can program them in the way that still ensures you to progress at least in the mesocycle, right? So when it comes to the total tonnage, I think it's a good variable to track when you want to focus on something like powerlifting, for example, because their load and intensity increase is the main goal. It is. For hypertrophy, though, it is not. And there are, I think, in general, it is quite tough to track progress when it comes to hypertrophy and track variables in your training protocol and try to only look at the numbers. I think what you actually need to do in that instance is actually take more data, collect them, and try to get a better picture of that. So girth measurements, photos, and then progress in the gym and stuff, because progress in the gym is not necessarily leading to hypertrophy. It's a good indicator, especially in the off season, but it isn't, especially when it comes to strength, because strength is neurological and technical efficiency or technical adaptations more so than just an indicator of hypertrophy, right? And what we then can do is actually take old data in conjunction with the other data I just mentioned and get a better picture of whether we are growing or not. So I don't know if you have anything else to add there in regards to the tonnage thing.
Yeah, I think your point of just for hypertrophy, it might not be the best way to track volume is a brilliant point to make. Because it does just become a bit difficult and it's just not the easiest. And it's actually way easier just to track number of hard sets when we're considering a hard set to be anywhere from 4 or less reps in reserve and within a rep range of like 6 to 30.
Yeah, and can I just add something really quickly because I didn't bring it up? Volume, especially tonnage, is created not always the same. So when you're doing something like squats, it's quite different to leg press, even though that they are kind of similar, right? And when you are then comparing mesocycle to mesocycle, you would need to ensure that you keep everything the same to actually compare it to another, right? Because doing like 7,300 tonnage in one meso, let's say, in week 1, compared to the other meso, where you did like 6,700. This is just an example. I'm not saying that you're doing that because you talked about the weeks. But let's just say that it is. And the other mesocycle was completely different in the exercise selection. You can't really compare that to another anymore. All right. And that creates a problem in it for itself already. The exercise selection and the total tonnage.
Yeah. So I think there's just a really good case to maybe not use total tonnage. And then, I mean, like you said, he's progressing. So, I mean, you're already ticking a box there. Could you be progressing faster? You could make arguments, I guess. But if you're looking to overload via reps, sets, load, that's like the way you do it. So if you're seeing results and you're doing that, then you don't need to get too worried about whether there's ways to get better gains or not. You have to figure that out for yourself.
No,
it's difficult to really say.
Totally. And I think that's really important to point out that you are making progress, and that is the eventual goal of training and what we are doing, at least. That the goal isn't to find the optimal way to count our volume, to count our progress in it for itself on paper. The goal is just progress in it for itself. How we are creating that progress. There are many ways to go about it, in my opinion. And as long as you're progressing and you're doing that, this is just an indicator that you're doing something right. Mm-hmm. And if you are tracking with such a variable and this allows you to progress, forget everything we just said, or keep that at least in mind, but still continue what you're doing because it obviously works.
Cool. So he said, P.S. When using isometric holds, how would you count the weight? E.g., when I deadlift, I tend to hold every second rep just below the knee to increase strength at this point. So one of the sets I did this morning looked like this, 20 times 80, and every even rep hold below the knee. Okay. So anyway, let's just say, how do you count isometric? I think we've already answered that through hard sets. Like, I just wouldn't try and count, like, I don't know, you can't...
I think it's more a question of the seconds, or, like, I don't know. Is it referring to the total tonnage or the set number then, or is it more so referring to the seconds?
Yeah, I'm not completely sure. I just went by, when using isometric holds, how would you count the weight? How do you count the weight? I think this is another issue of tracking via that element of kind of total tonnage. It becomes very complicated.
Wesley, if you can elaborate or rephrase that, ask for the next time, then we can try to answer it. And if not, then that's it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Every even rep, hold below the knee for 10, 9, 8, etc. And every uneven rep, full range of motion. It's just an interesting way to lift for hypertrophy. But yeah, I won't get into that.
Let's move on to the last question then.
Do we have enough time? We're on 57 minutes.
Yeah, we can. If it's a short one, then...
It is short. So Griffin Young has asked, if you find yourself plateauing on isolation exercises in terms of reps or weight, what do you typically do next? I'm not saying going for a PR on curls or anything, but more just to keep progression moving. Thanks, boys. So this is a cool question. Do you want to...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so for me, it's quite easy to answer. Either if you have done that exercise for a longer period of time, change the exercise, do a slight variation or so. Other than that, you can always ask yourself whether how you deem that progression model to happen with that certain exercise. What I mean by that is things like, for example, dumbbell lateral raises. They are hard to progress via load. If you're always then trying to reach a certain repetition number, right, and you are having a static set number, for example, then it's becoming really, really hard to progress via weight, because when you are then going up to the next dumbbell, it is like a nearly 20% increase in weight. This is not feasible, right? There you can actually then implement something with a rep range, or play with the rep range. And what I like to do is throughout the mesocycles I'm creating, so let's say first hypertrophy block, second hypertrophy block, I'm already starting to manipulate the rep ranges slightly. Most of the time, especially for exercises that are hard to progress via load, I just do something like, okay, the first hypertrophy block, let's say I program something like 12 to 15 reps. And then the second one, I'm doing something like, 15 to 20 reps or so, right? That you can progress with the same weight and more so a static number of sets, or even an undulating number of sets if you are progressing via set numbers from week to week, but still find it hard to progress via load. Then you can keep it steady and try to progress via the repetitions for a really, really long time. And then, once again, you can fall back to what I said in the beginning, change the exercise, and go back to that one after like, I don't know, an entire macro cycle. And then hopefully you got stronger by that.
Yeah, I think that was a brilliant answer. I don't know if I really have much to add, because this happens a lot with, like, obviously as a percentage, increasing a small amount of load on an isolation movement is just huge. And so you might be dumbbell lateral raising in the same repetition range with the same load for months on end. And it's just a case of working through it. What I would say is, I think if you're not already, do some submaximal work. So if you're going to failure all the time on your isolation exercises, it might be a case of just you need to do some submaximal work, allow yourself to accumulate a little bit more volume, and then that will allow for some progression. I don't know how you're working that, but I very much, like triple progression models work very well. Double progression can work. I tend to work, like you said, through a repetition range, through a mesocycle, and I'll increase load if I can stick within that repetition range, and for the sets that I can, sticking at a certain reps in reserve and starting at a lower end and moving up nearer to failure towards the end of the mesocycle, and then mesocycle to mesocycle, increasing that repetition range, potentially changing the movement. Brilliant answer, Pascal. I think we can leave it there.
Cool.
Awesome. So cheers, guys. I hope you had an amazing Christmas, and we'll be releasing this on New Year's Eve, won't we? So I hope you have an amazing New Year's Eve.
No one's going to listen.
Just like Christmas Eve. I wonder how many views our last one got. I actually don't know.
I have no idea. But I think Christmas Eve is something different because the pressure of the New Year's Eve, it's so overhyped.
Yeah, it is big hype.
I have the feeling that no one actually wants to go out, but everyone thinks that the other people want to go out, and then we are actually stuck in the vicious cycle.
Yeah. Cool. So guys, enjoy your night if you listen to this. And if you don't listen to this, screw you.
Yeah, cheers, guys.